is a Bramble Jam podcast.
Welcome to Girls Gone Hallmark, a Hallmark review podcast. I'm Megan, and I'm a longtime Hallmark fan.
I'm Wendy. I'm a former Hallmark hater.
Today, we're discussing This Time Each Year, which originally premiered on Hallmark Mystery on Thursday, October 24th, 2024. And guess what? We're not alone. But before we introduce you to our guests, we want to remind you where you can find us outside of the podcast. Follow us on Instagram. We have 2 Instagram accounts. Girls Gone Hallmark for all things Hallmark, and Megan and Wendy, which is everything else.
We also have a Boomin' Facebook group. It's private. It's full of really awesome, I was going to say connected. They're not connected, but like very engaged people who are passionate about these movies. And I think if you're looking for a space to talk about what you saw or what you didn't like or anything related to Hallmark, it is the place to be.
I agree. You could always email us too, your thoughts on the podcast, your thoughts on these movies. We love reading your emails, and our email is girlsgonehallmark@gmail.com. We are very lucky to be joined today by Nicole Smith, the host of the Swing My Heart podcast, which y'all are definitely going to want to listen to because she does a ton of interviews with your favorite Hallmark stars.
Thank you.
Welcome to Girls Gone Hallmark, Nicole.
Thank you for having me. I'm so excited to be on your podcast and talk about This Time Each Year.
Can you tell our listeners a little bit of your Hallmark watching origin story?
Sure. So for me, I always remember when I was a kid watching the Hallmark Christmas movies occasionally, but I never started watching on a regular basis until about March or April of 2017 when I got into When Calls the Heart and I binged that. And then I was able to catch up in just enough time, I think, to watch the last 2 episodes of season 4 live. And I've been watching Hallmark regularly ever since then.
That is one series that we have never seen a single episode of.
It's great.
Is it? See, I have a problem with like period pieces, and I just don't know if I could get into it. But I thought the same thing with Signed, Sealed, Delivered, and I loved Signed, Sealed, Delivered, even though it's not a period piece. But I'm just saying, like, I wasn't sure we were going to be able to, because there was so much of it already if we could get into it.
Number one is there was so much. And then when we announced, we're like, we're doing Signed, Sealed, Delivered summer, a few regular listeners were like, no, don't do it.
They're like, you're not going to like it.
It's boring. And I was like, I was so nervous going into it. And then the first couple movies were like, this is pretty good.
I was hooked for Signed Sealed. I was hooked from the very beginning. I'm not an OG Postable, so I didn't start watching right when it aired.
Yeah.
First premiered in 2014. I came in very late to the game, February of 2021, and I think I binged it within 3 or 4 days. Like, I think I started February 3rd of 2021 and I finished like the 7th or something.
Oh,
yes, I remember the exact day.
Wow.
Would you say you've watched them since then?
Yes, multiple times.
Multiple times. What are your feelings on like the most recent movie and the one to come next?
I loved the most recent one. Of course, there might have been some things I would have changed a little bit, but I thought it was great. Martha Williamson always does a fantastic job. The acting was incredible, and I'm so excited for the next one.
I'm really excited to see.
Yeah.
I know. I'm excited too. I hope it's in like I hope it premieres in the first 3 months of the new year.
Me too. Yeah.
Because I'm like, we can't wait any longer.
No. And I hope we get more after that.
I hope so too. And I don't know if you heard our interview with Crystal. She feels hopeful for it. So that makes me happy.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing how many years, 11 years they've been making these movies and they still have the core 4 of them coming back. I mean, that's
amazing.
Pretty incredible.
Yeah.
Because of your love of Signed, Sealed, Delivered, thought that this movie, This Time Each Year, which of course is directed by Crystal Lowe, would be the perfect crossover episode. So Wendy's going to read us a little synopsis.
Despite a trial separation, Lauren pretends to still be with her husband Kevin to placate her overbearing mother. The ruse may be just what the couple needs to finally work on their marriage.
It's time for news and notes for This Time Each Year. Crystal Lowe directed This Time Each Year. Crystal is, of course, well known as Rita in the Signed, Sealed, Delivered series. This is her second full-length directorial project after shifting gears earlier this year. She is currently working on another as-yet unannounced project.
Michael Christopher gets the story credit for this movie, and unfortunately, that's all the information we have. There is nothing else out there.
That is correct. Michael Christopher, get in touch. Juliana Wembles wrote the teleplay for this movie. Juliana is an actress with 44 acting credits, often seen as Lisa in the Hannah Swenson mysteries. She has a growing writing career with 6 writing credits that include A Costa Rican Wedding and A Whitewater Romance.
Allie Sweeney plays Lauren. Allie is an entertainment powerhouse with 53 acting credits. She also served as executive producer on this movie. IMDb tells us the next Hannah Swenson mystery, Cooked to Death, which I don't know about that title, is currently in pre-production.
Niall Mater plays Kevin. Niall has 65 acting credits, including last year's Holiday Hotline and a cameo as DJ Ginger Jeff in the Santa Summit. DJ Ginger Jeff. It never really occurred to me the play on Jazzy Jeff until right this moment. We're still waiting on a return of Family History Mysteries. Not going to stop banging that drum. This was Niall and Allie's first movie together.
Victor Zink Jr. plays Brother Bart. Victor has 41 acting credits and previously appeared with Niall in Frozen in Love. Victor also had a 4-episode run on the one-hit wonder Date My Dad.
Laura Soltis plays Lauren's mom. Laura has 64 acting credits and has already appeared in this year's Holiday Crashers. She is also set to appear in Season's Greetings from Cherry Lane, due out on Hallmark Plus.
Colleen Wheeler plays Mom Patricia. Colleen has 64 acting credits, including roles in Notes of Autumn and Field Day for Hallmark. She has 5 projects currently in production, although none appear to be for Hallmark.
Craig March plays Ron. Craig has 108 acting credits, including previous Hallmark projects, Nellie Knows Mysteries, A Fatal Engagement, and Checkin' It Twice.
Ezra Wilson plays Charlie. Ezra has just 4 acting credits, including the series Virgin River and Christmas on Cherry Lane. He also has 4 projects upcoming, according to IMDb.
Go Ezra. We're going to take a quick break, and we'll be right back.
It's time for first impressions. And my first impression is this movie does a great job of not saying the hard things and an even better job of showing off how jacked Niall Mater is.
Oh my God.
Nicole, what's your first impression?
I think I had a lot of first impressions for this movie, but I'll just say 2. Love is her work, and you should never give up on love. And I loved the McCall family. Like, how can we spend a McCall family Christmas?
For real, they're in my notes actually too.
What is your first impression?
My first impression is you think your holidays are stressful.
Oh, nice.
I sold a house earlier this year. I don't know how. There's no way I could have managed selling a house during the holiday season.
Yeah, the house selling timeline is in my wishes.
it's a little.
Yeah. I want to talk about some things we liked.
Okay.
In our interview with Crystal, she talked about like how excited she was about the opening of this movie. And I loved watching that on screen, like the progression of holiday cards. Typical Hallmark movie openings are like a B-roll establishing shot of where the movie is filmed with a title card over it. And the fact that they went and did the extra piece here with showing the progression of their lives. And to me, I feel like that's where a director really gets to shine, right? Like the writer didn't maybe included that, but there's no dialogue. So the director was like, this is how we're going to stage these moments. And I thought it set the scene perfectly.
It was amazing. That was one of my favorite parts of the movie too.
Yeah. What else did you like about this movie?
Let's see. Well, of course, I loved the married couple storyline with depth and them working through issues, which I feel like we're seeing more and more of on Hallmark lately, and I love it.
Yeah.
I love it too.
Yeah. the chemistry between Niall and Allie. And I think my favorite scene, ooh, that's a tough one. I think my favorite scene is probably the one towards the end when they're at the Bayview home and they're dancing.
That's my favorite scene too. I sent Crystal a DM and I was like, I have full body chills right now in this, just because the way, I agree with you. I thought Allie and Niall had like fire chemistry. Yeah. I really, really enjoyed them together. And the way that Crystal shot that scene with like just them dancing in the glow of the movie light, I thought was
so beautiful.
That whole scene was really good. I just loved watching them like sitting on the couch and eating Chinese food and then telling stories and laughing. And like you could truly see that they were still in love with each other. They had just hit like a real tough season of their marriage.
Yeah, they needed to work through some stuff.
Yeah.
Oh, I also loved the gingerbread house competition. That was fun.
All I could think of during that scene was how Crystal was like, we were like, what's it like working with kids? And she's like, did he eat too many candy when we were making gingerbread? Yes, he did. And I just like, all I could picture in my mind was like spiraling. I just thought, yep, that's the perfect setup for an 8-year-old to be like, I'm going to be sick at the end of this day.
Nobody's looking. I'm going to just eat this candy here.
They're right in front of me. What do you expect me to do?
He was cute. I notoriously don't like little children in movies, and I thought he was real cute.
I loved Charlie. We have teenagers, and my husband watched this movie with me, and he was like, look at how excited he is about Christmas.
Yeah.
Like, it's just that excitement when he runs into their room on Christmas morning. Santa came. I just loved it. Like, my kids, we have to wake them up now.
Yeah, you have to wait till noon for them to get out of bed.
Yes. So I want to talk about something that I don't know where it's going to land for all of you, but for me, it lands in my likes, and that is the alcoholism storyline here. I have read some critique about the way this was handled in this movie. And people really wanted to hear the words alcoholic. They really wanted to hear the word DUI, and they felt like the storyline was perhaps too watered down. And I'm very curious to hear how y'all, Wendy has a big nod, feel about this. 100% personal perspective here. We have another podcast on Patreon, and I talk all the time when we talk about things we're watching. I am not interested in storylines about addiction. They make me personally very uncomfortable to watch. Okay. That being said, I think it's real clear what's going on here. It's handled in a very Hallmark way. They don't use the word alcoholism, but his boss says to him, are you still on the wagon? They don't use the word DUI, but they reference his accident and losing his license. And then he gets his license back, which is a very nice moment. I think that it's important that Hallmark, in all of its stretching, in all of its ways to tell different stories, stays true to its family-friendly roots. And I also think it's really important for people to see themselves reflected back in the media they consume. And so for me personally, I think they did a nice job of walking that line. And now I'm going to shut up and let y'all tell me what you thought.
I actually agree with you, Megan, completely. And I think, in my opinion, it was tackled in a very Martha Williamson way, because she tackles these kinds of subjects very similar to this, like in Dark of Night with the
sexual assault. Right. Okay. Assault.
It was done very well. Yeah, I agree.
I think Wendy disagrees.
I disagree. Let's just call it what it is. I don't like that they danced around it. I hear what you're saying and agree with you both that like it was handled with delicately. But for me, I was like, I didn't like how she was angry at him because he had lost his license and had lied about it. That's the interpretation that I got from this movie. Did they have problems with him drinking? I don't know. It was very unclear to me. So I needed a more established like timeline of events, I guess.
Yeah, I think at one point he talks about how like he was angry, he went out, he had too much to drink and drove when he shouldn't have, is kind of like the story that he tells. And I didn't get the impression from the way they presented it that he had an ongoing lifelong drinking problem that was infusing its way into his marriage. The impression I got was that things were hard. He was turning to alcohol as an outlet for that. The end result was he got in an accident and lost his license. And I think, like you said, like the lying was a bigger part of their conflict than the drinking on its own.
Right.
But it is very sanitized. Like, I fully agree that it is a sanitized way of telling this story. And I also think you need to look at the net. Like, they're trying to make movies that every single member of your family can watch. And I can understand families that don't want their 5-year-old being like, Mommy, what's an alcoholic?
Yeah. No, I hear you.
So, and I don't want alcoholism to, at the same time, I just had this thought. When we get to the family-friendly crowd, a lot of times that group is like, I don't want to see certain things in my Hallmark. Like, that makes it unfamily friendly to me. And my hackles go up when someone's like, that same-sex couple is not family friendly. And so I don't want to suggest that like alcoholism is something that makes someone a bad person.
Yeah.
So I guess I have complicated feelings about this.
And it's okay to have complicated. It's layered. It is
layered. Yes.
It's okay. And I think that's to me a sign of a good movie where like it's not just black and white. Like it's you come away from it, you're still thinking about it. Like how does it relate to your life? How whatever. So brava.
Yeah.
And
I mean, how many of these Hallmark movies, especially looking back years past, are you still like thinking about and talking about, you know, days after watching them? I think that's not terribly.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
some signed sealed movies.
For sure. I think Signed Sealed definitely is a great example of those. Does anybody have anything else they liked that we didn't get to?
I do. I have some. Can I
Okay.
get into them? This goes back to what I just said about being layered. I thought that setting this time of year during the holiday season, because the holidays can be very troubling, stressing for people. To me, it was refreshing that Hallmark gave us like a movie with themes that were not easily digestible, I guess. And I mean, of course, it was on Hallmark Movies and Mysteries. So,
Yeah.
you know, what did we used to call it?
Movies in Misery.
Movies and Misery. But it was nice. I thought it was refreshing that Hallmark gave us like this movie, but it was also very hopeful. So it wasn't just like all doom and gloom.
Yeah, I think it's nice to see these storylines where it's like the holidays are going to come like it or not. And you can't schedule your life conflicts around the holidays.
Yeah.
You can't just like put a pause on all of that. So sometimes you got to be showing up for your kid and you got to be smiling for the family photo and you got to be entertaining your parents while also still dealing with all the real life stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not
Very
just
true.
like life goes on pause for 2 weeks while we do a bevy of holiday activities.
Wow, we forget everything going on.
Yeah.
Exactly. The other thing I really liked about it was the emphasis on perfection and accepting imperfection. I personally have a problem with perfection. So it was nice to see, like you said just a minute ago, like we want to see themes reflected back.
Yes.
Right. And I love the end where Laura Solstice, her mom, presents her with the figurine that's put back together, and they have this whole like moment of like it's okay to be imperfect. And I was like, yes, it is okay to be imperfect.
Yeah, the beauty is in the imperfection.
Yes, I love that scene.
Yes. I'm thinking about the quote from Oliver in The Road Less Traveled when they're talking about the camera. Sometimes it's the imperfections in life that make things perfect or something along those lines.
That is so funny you mentioned that, because watching that series too, I got a lot of takeaway about that sort of thing about imperfection. God, that series, it still sits with me, I swear to God.
And I feel like that's going to be one of those, like, you know, sometimes Gilmore Girls is my comfort watch. I feel like Signed Sealed could become like that sort of comfort watch for me.
Yeah. I have two more really quick ones. The choir singing the first Noel, and then the end, of course, when Lauren confesses and, you know, expresses her feelings, and they're all in the car and they're like, kiss her.
I know, that was a real cute kid. He's going to be on holidays. I'm excited to see.
He's probably younger on holidays though, right? Considering
because it's been shot. Yeah, it's
2
been
years ago, I think they made that. So
in the can. Good point.
I love that scene. You're right. In the church with the music was Stunning. So stunning. I did love Kevin and his brother, like their relationship, their brotherly, like the slap fighting and they're like poking with each other. Like they gave each other a really hard time. I thought that was lovely. And their whole family, I thought was really nice.
It was so fun. The sports analogies.
Yeah, I thought it was great. The way I laughed out loud when they show Kevin sleeping in his childhood twin bed and the mom like comes in and his childhood room is like the storage room for like the Christmas
gift
gifts.
wrapping room.
It was really funny.
It was her candy spelling dreams lived out in her oldest child's bedroom.
Nicole's probably too young to know who candy spelling is. And
oh, yeah. You probably are too young.
do you know who Tori Spelling is?
I've heard of her, yeah.
Okay, so her mom, notorious, like they were very, very rich and lived in a very, very big mansion in Beverly Hills. And she had a room dedicated just to like wrapping gifts. It was like the wrapping.
Oh, wow. Yeah, I didn't know that.
I believe she still does. I think she was I heard her on a radio show. And I think she's still like, she has like a doll room. Her husband was Aaron Spelling, this like big time TV producer, produced 90210 and Melrose Place and a million other shows. But I can't believe we're talking about that like the past.
I know.
I mean, Aaron Spelling has since passed. It is the past, but that's like my high school and college.
Beverly Hills 90210.
Okay, I've heard of it. I just have never watched it.
Yes,
Oh my God, please watch it.
yeah, it's Wendy's all-time favorite.
My all-time favorite.
Let's move on to wishes.
Okay.
I have a bunch. I want to say something here. I thought Laura Soltis was great in this role. However, I do take a little bit of an issue with her character and the whole like mess of it all. Like, I think she needs to take a little bit of ownership in Lauren's perfectionism issues. Like, if my parents called me Miss Mess through adulthood, like she's still using the phrase now, I would probably have a complex too.
Yeah, I thought that was funny because she was like, oh, I was just teasing you about your messy bedroom or whatever.
For my entire lifetime.
Yeah.
You're like, Mom, I have to go to therapy because you've
Well, and she even says at one point, like, oh yeah, she was a disaster. And I was like, oh, I don't get it.
I hear you. You.
Nicole, what did you wish for?
That was one of my issues that I had. And then also how they didn't tell their son, Charlie, about the separation. Maybe a little bit. I wish they had said that. And I wish they had told her mom too. But regarding her mom, I'm glad that it came out not at the end of the movie.
Yeah, they didn't drag it on forever,
Yes.
like this big ruse.
When she finally confesses to her. Because I agree with you. The Charlie storyline is another one of my wishes. I think they made some parenting choices here that are a little bit confusing. I mean, they've clearly got a kid who's like trying to find normalcy in his life. Like, he's wearing a Santa suit for 30 days. Like, that speaks to a kid who's like, I need something I can count on. And this Santa suit I can count on. And then to me, I'm like, okay, your mom comes to town and your choice is have a hard conversation with your mom or have your 8-year-old kid pretend like everything's okay. I would have maybe made a different choice.
Yes.
Yeah, I think it's confusing for an 8-year-old. Like, yeah. And they never really showed him, right? They never really showed him being around when Kevin spent the night that night.
Well, doesn't he say like, are you going to be here when I wake up, Daddy?
Oh, I don't.
Did I watched so many movies, but I
We watched a lot of movies this weekend.
I think he said something about that. Like, are you going to be here when I wake up?
I have one question. Who won the gingerbread house competition? I don't think they said that, and I would have loved to have known that.
I don't know the answer
I
to
don't
that either.
know either.
I don't think they said. That would have been fun to see.
Hey, Crystal, who won the gingerbread house competition?
I wonder if that got cut.
Did it get cut for time?
Yeah. Interesting.
Yeah.
All right, Wendy, what'd you wish for?
Well, we already talked about the drinking part of this whole thing. We won't go over that again. But I was a little bit lost with the house drama.
Yeah.
I'm assuming that Lauren and Kevin were having some conflict over like doing the renovations and the amount that it was costing them and et cetera, et cetera. But it was all kind of lost for me. I wish we maybe would have seen some of that in like flashback
Oh, yeah.
or something.
Oh, yeah. That would have been nice. Yeah.
Well, it's confusing to me because they're like, oh, they talk about like, you know, they show all these past due bills and they talk about how like, she's like, I made a big mistake. Like we got into this money pit. But then when they go to list it, you know, there's drop cloths all over everything. But they stage it. The house appears to be done.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm like, wait, what's the problem here? If the house is done, why couldn't we A, have moved into it, or B, have sold it before this point? Like it seemed like there needed to be like an intermediary step where they're like, we got to get someone in here to wrap up all these things that we ran out of money for. Because otherwise, why is this beautiful done house just sitting here? I think Lauren says like the dream I had for this house kind of fell apart in the conflict of it all.
Do you think it would have been helpful to like establish something like early on? Like if some scenes of them like
fighting during the renovation.
Yeah, and we wouldn't even need to see like a fight, but just some sort of like conflict between them. It didn't even have to be like words said, but just like, you know, am I making sense here?
The scene could have just been them like, like getting frustrated with each other. Like, you want that stupid tile and I want this whatever. The conflicts don't even need to be that big, but just showing some sort of like,
I agree.
Strife.
Yes.
Yes. I have one more wish. I did not love how the male realtor could have potentially been a love interest, a new love interest for Lauren. I thought that what would have been better if they showed it, and they kind of did this, but if they would have showed it from Kevin's perspective, like he's seeing like their relationship and then assuming like Lauren was moving on, and then he gets like upset about it.
Yeah, as opposed to him like hugging her or taking her on a date. Do you have a few hours so I can go over this offer? It doesn't take a few hours to go over an offer. What's the number? Text me.
Let's jump on a Zoom call and be done. Yeah.
Do you have any more wishes, Nicole?
Yep, that was it. Yep, and I agree with y'all's too.
This goes back. I talk about this a lot. Like, we don't need big events happening the week before Christmas. Nobody, when they go to that house December 22nd and they're like, we got to sell it. And I was like, it's December 22nd. Nobody's looking at a house on December 23rd and 24th. Say goodbye till January. Nobody's buying this house.
Yeah, I thought it was kind of silly how they were like, oh, we can close by the holiday. And I'm like, well, technically you can't, because usually it's like,
even an all cash offer takes more than 20. We can close tomorrow. No, you can't. Like, first of all,
so much paperwork.
Nobody's working. Second of all, nobody buys a house in 24 hours. They're not bringing a suitcase of money over. Anyway, just that whole, I was like, let's infuse a little reality into this situation.
That was a little bit unrealistic. So I agree with that.
Also, I'm going to tell you, I don't think you stage your house with Christmas decorations. You need to stage your house in a very neutral way so that any buyer can envision themselves living there.
I thought that was weird too.
Like, it's like that movie last year where they were like, let's paint the room red for Christmas. I'm like, what are you doing? You don't paint a room red for Christmas when you're flipping a house. You put a wreath up to signify that it's Christmas.
Was that Flipping for Christmas?
Yes.
I was about to say that. Was that Flipping?
I think I like that movie.
Our Christmas decorations are intense in this house, and even we do not repaint.
They changed their bedding, though, which is crazy to me. They have
Okay,
Christmas bedding.
we are not the only ones with Christmas bedding. Have you seen the Pottery Barn catalog? They have so many options.
We have so many Christmas decorations at my house. You would not believe how many nutcrackers my mom has. I'm not even joking.
Cool.
We have a collection of nutcrackers.
I think that's fun. I think that's really fun.
Yeah. But when we're taking the decorations out and I'm helping her take them out, like the nutcrackers just keep coming. I'm like,
It is time for Did You See That? And I'm going to give our guest the honors of calling out the best Did You See That in this movie.
The Principal's Easter eggs. That was the best.
Now, were there more than one? Tell me.
Yes.
Oh, I only
us.
caught one.
Okay, so the blue house, which was Lauren's home, that is Rita and Norman's house in the vows we have made.
Oh my gosh.
I think maybe 3 letters too, I think.
I knew we made the right choice having you on this episode.
Okay.
Norman's cousin Calliope who was Shane and Oliver's marriage counselor in 3 letters. She was their therapist.
Gosh.
I read that on Twitter, but I cannot claim that as noticing that myself.
Oh my
And then
gosh.
Christmas cameo. And one more. I think, if I'm correct, the white church that they showed, like the exterior of, and I think they showed the interior too when they were singing when the choir was singing.
Uh-huh.
That's the same church from the Gift of Peace and Signed, Sealed, the Vows We Have Made.
Wow.
Look at you.
Wow. That was amazing.
Okay. Let's rate this time each year.
Okay.
Nicole, what did you rate this out of 5 stars?
4.5 out of 5.
Ooh. I have to look at my
Wow.
notes. What did I? Oh, I thought I did. I rated it 4 stars.
I gave it 3.75, which is don't look at me like that.
Look at you. I just looked. There was no intention.
It's a good rating.
It
It
is
is.
a good rating. I saw in a Facebook group today someone had started ranking their movies so far this year, and I think I want to start it gets a little in the weeds for me, like when you get up to like 40, but I have watched every movie so far, so
Really?
I've already
mhm.
started ranking mine.
You're ranking yours too?
Where
from what
what's number 1 of what you've seen so far?
Christmas Charade.
Interesting. People are liking that much more than I thought they would.
We're not reviewing it, so I didn't watch it. I watched the very beginning because it was on, and then I love that we saw Kristen Booth. I even like had put something on Instagram because I thought she looked freaking gorgeous, and her and Jefferson Brown. I was like, these two are fire together.
Can we get a Jefferson Brown and Kristen Booth Hallmark movie, please?
Please.
Freaking Lily.
We saw on IMDb that they were in that movie together, and we had messaged her on. We're like, "Are you in the Christmas Charade?" And she she didn't confirm
was like-
anything. She like messaged back an emoji.
Do you watch The Way Home?
I do. Yes.
I love him.
Jefferson Brown.
I love him. He needs to be in more movies.
Yes.
Yeah. Why do we not get more Jefferson Brown? I'm glad he was in this. This tells me like Hallmark's paying attention to what the people want.
Yeah, exactly.
So Nicole, why don't you let everybody know where the people can find you?
So on Facebook and Instagram, you can find me at Swing My Heart Podcast. And then on Twitter, it is Swing My Heart Pod.
And your podcast is published on YouTube.
Yes.
Yeah.
And Spotify. I just recently started posting to Spotify too.
Yay.
Nice. Like I said before, Nicole does a ton of interviews, and it was really fun to scroll through. Like, you're so brave. All those interviews. they terrify me. You're good at it. Also, I saw on your personal Instagram a link to a design business. Is that something that's in the works? What's happening?
Yes, it is.
Would you like to talk about that?
I have an Etsy shop that I will hopefully be opening soon for my graphic design business, which is what I went to school for.
Nice.
And it is called Pink Palmetto Studio. And Palmetto is, I live in the Palmetto State, so that's why I named it Pink Palmetto Studio.
We'll leave links to all of that in the show notes of this episode. Thank you so much for being here, and thank you for listening to this episode of Girls Gone Hallmark, a Bramble Jam podcast. If you love this podcast, we love your 5-star ratings and reviews. You can leave them in the app you're listening in right now. We'll see you next time. Goodbye.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
All right, friends, before we go, just a quick heads up. You're about to hear some ads. These little gems help us keep the show running and the Hallmark love flowing. So do with that info what you will. Grab a snack, hit the skip button, or maybe, just maybe, listen in and discover your new favorite product. Bye.